ที่ได้รับท็อป 50 ของโลกทางด้านลอแล้วก็แน่นอนครับได้รับการรับรองจากกต.ด้วยการเรียนต่อปริญญาโทของประเทศอังกฤษทางด้านกฎหมายเนี่ยแน่นอนต้องไปเรียนมหาวิทยาลัยที่เป็นกต.รับรองใช่ไหมดาร์แรมเป็นหนึ่งในมหาวิทยาลัยนั้นที่คนคุณค่าแต่การไปเรียนมากๆนะครับเซสชันวันนี้เหมาะกับใครครับเซสชันวันนี้เหมาะกับนักเรียนที่กำลังเตรียมตัวในการสมัครเรียนต่อทางด้านสาขากฎหมายนะครับหรือว่าต้องการทราบถึงเนื้อหาของหลักสูตรในการเรียนเพื่อประกอบในการตัดสินใจในการสมัครเรียนนะครับหรือน้องๆอาจจะอยากทราบอัปเดตเกี่ยวกับเรื่องการรับเข้าของปี 2021 ว่า admission อัปเดตเป็นยังไงเกณฑ์ในการรับเข้าเกณฑ์ GPA สูงกว่าเดิมน้อยกว่าเดิมIELTS ใช้คะแนนเท่าไหร่นักเรียนส่วนใหญ่สมัครรอสาขาไหนสมัครสาขานี้ง่ายหรือสมัครสาขานี้ยาก competitive มันต่างกันยังไงนะครับวันนี้จะมาเปิดให้หมดเลยแล้วก็นะครับเราจะมีเกี่ยวกับเรื่องการใช้ชีวิตการเป็นอยู่ที่เมืองดาร์แรมด้วยว่าทำไมถึงมันเป็นเมืองที่น่าอยู่แล้วมันเป็นดาร์แรมเนี่ยเรียกว่าเป็นมหาวิทยาลัยที่เป็น ancient university เป็นมหาวิทยาลัยเก่าแก่นะครับเดี๋ยวเราจะมาดูไลฟ์สไตล์การนิดนึงแน่นอนว่านักเรียนไทยที่ไปเรียนต่อประเทศอังกฤษค่อนข้างที่จะสนใจเรื่องไลฟ์สไตล์ในการใช้ชีวิตการเป็นอยู่ที่อังกฤษค่อนข้างระดับหนึ่งเลยเพราะฉะนั้นวันนี้ก็จะเป็นเซสชั่นที่เราจะพูดถึง4หัวข้อใหญ่ๆวันนี้นะครับโดยใช้เวลาทั้งหมดด้วยกัน45 นาทีนะครับ so Dr. Mike Yes, it's our pleasure to have you here with us in the session in this evening time. And of course, it's a morning time for yourself. Could you please introduce yourself to the audience?
Hi, everybody. Good afternoon. My name is Dr. Mike Adcock, and I teach intellectual property at Durham Law School, Durham University. And I'll give you a presentation today on a little bit about the Durham itself, about the university, and about the law school and our LLM programs.
ครับดร.ไมค์นะครับก็กล่าวทักทายทุกท่านนะครับแล้วก็ต้องบอกก่อนเลยว่าดร.ไมค์เนี่ยเดินทางจริงๆแล้วท่านเนี่ยเดินทางมาประเทศไทยบ่อยมากๆนะครับเพราะฉะนั้นท่านจะค่อนข้างรู้จักนักเรียนไทยอยู่แล้วว่านักเรียนไทยเนี่ยมีคำถามอะไรแล้วก็นักเรียนไทยเนี่ยเวลาสมัครเรียน law school นะครับสนใจที่จะอยากได้ข้อมูลแบบไหนนะครับเพราะฉะนั้นเซสชั่นวันนี้ครับแน่นอนว่าเจาะลึกข้อมูลอย่างลึกซึ้งแน่นอนนะครับอยู่กันจนจบนะครับวันนี้แล้วก็เดี๋ยวเราจะเริ่ม presentation กันเลยนะครับ
Welcome everybody. Thank you for coming along and listening to this session on Durham University's master's programs. As I say, my name is Dr. Mike Adcock and I teach intellectual property in Durham Law. I thought today what we would do is talk a little bit about Durham, then talk about the university, and then LLM programs within the law school. So where is Durham in the UK? It's only a small place and not many people know where it is, but it's about 3 hours by train to London, about an hour and a half by train to Edinburgh, and the nearest airport, Newcastle, is about 45 minutes away. So most people come to the UK either into London, I think you get direct flights now into London through Thai Airways, or fly into Newcastle, the nearest airport, and we do transfers from Newcastle into Durham. Durham is a small to medium-sized university. We have, roughly speaking, about 20,000 students, of which about 5,000 are postgraduate students. And of those postgraduate students, over half are international students. So they come from all over the world. They come from Asia, China, North America, Canada. They come from parts of Africa, Australia, New Zealand, mainland Europe. So we have a very strong international feel to our student body. And particularly within the law school, our LLM programs attracts a lot of international students from all over the world. So it has a nice feel to it. It's not just full of British people, UK people. You'll meet people from all over the world who have come from different backgrounds, to have different cultures, different foods. So that we feel is part of the learning experience that you get as a student within Durham. This is an aerial view of Durham City. And I think what you can see about it is it's a small city. About 40,000 people. So it is a very small city. And we have 20,000 students. So you can see that the city has a very student feel to it. In the top of the slide there, you'll see Durham Law School. That's where Durham Law School is situated, just to the north of the city itself. And that's the main part of the university. And if you are in Durham Law School and you want to walk into town, it will take you 10 or 15 minutes. As I say, it's a small city, very easy to get around, very green, very safe, has a very nice atmosphere to it. And a lot of the accommodation is either in the centre of the city or up near the law school, where most of the colleges are, if you decide to stay in university accommodation. And then in the centre of the city, you'll see the cathedral, which is part of a heritage site. So it's a small city, very pretty, very green, very easy and very safe to get around. Durham Law School is well ranked. When you look at various universities and tables, you'll find there are lots and lots of different tables ranking universities in different ways. But we're ranked very highly in terms of the QS ranking. The law school is ranked 43rd in the QS ranking. We're ranked 7th in the UK in the Complete University Guide, 4th in the Sunday Times Guide. So no matter what table you look at, you'll see Durham Law School ranked very highly. And I think if you're thinking of coming to the UK, make sure that you look at the law school rankings rather than the university rankings, because sometimes you'll find that a law school is ranked higher than the university, or sometimes you'll see the law school is ranked lower than the university. So it's important to look at a range of ranking tables, but also look at it for the law school. The law school itself is also 4th in REF, which is a research exercise. That means we're the 4th best law school in terms of our research outputs. And this is important, obviously, for us as a law school, but it's also important for you as a student, because what it means is that you'll be taught by people who are experts in their area, who are researching very hard in their area, and therefore you'll be taught by people who are leading research in their particular areas. So it's basically research-led teaching. It's very up to date. In addition, the university and the law school has what's called TEF gold status. And this is to do with the quality of teaching that we have, in terms of we have very strong teaching strengths, in terms that, again, every university is assessed by the government on their standard of teaching, and ours is giving the top standard gold status, which means not only are you being taught by high quality staff, you're being taught in a very good way. Durham Law School basically specializes in particular areas. We specialize in international trade and commercial law. This is often the most popular master's program within Thai students or international students. We specialize in international law, European law, and in human rights law. The law school itself tends to recruit around 350 undergraduate students and about 150 postgraduate students. So roughly 140 LLM master's students each year. And we offer programs at undergraduate, postgraduate taught, which is the LLM program, and postgraduate research levels. Now, I mentioned postgraduate research because we find some students come to the UK and do the master's program, the LLM, and they sometimes stay on to do a master's, a further master's, or they stay on to do a PhD. And if you're thinking of going into academia back in Thailand, or joining a university back in Thailand, it's increasingly likely that you're going to need a PhD in the future. So it's good to consider coming to Durham, doing your master's program, finding an area that you find really exciting and interesting, and then perhaps staying on to do a PhD with us. And I've had two Thai students come to Durham, study and complete their PhDs with me, and one is now lecturing in Chiang Rai University. But it's not all study. The picture there, the top picture is of the law school. The bottom picture there is of a law school dinner. So we have lots of formal events within the law school, annual law school dinner. We have formal events where we have people coming to Durham to give presentations on a very wide range of topics. So besides the studying you're doing within the university, there's lots of opportunities to engage with speakers from all areas of law. So we have judges coming in, we have experts from other universities coming in, we have people from law companies coming in to give us presentations, and you have an opportunity to talk, listen to their presentation and to talk and to mix with them. Our master's program is a year-time study starting in October and runs through to September. It's a taught postgraduate program. In essence, it's divided into 3 parts. The first 2 parts are your lectures and seminars, and you do your assignments. The third part is where you do your dissertation, and the dissertation is done over the summer months. Most of our teaching is through lectures or small group seminar-based teaching, and we have 5 main streams for our LLM program. We have the general LLM, the LLM in International Trade and Commercial Law, which is the most popular LLM with international students. It's also accredited to the judiciary. So if you decide you want to become a judge and you decide to do 2 LLMs in the UK, this one would count as towards one of those LLMs. It's recognized by the judiciary. We do European Trade and Commercial Law, LLMs in Corporate Law, and International Law and Governance. And each of those LLMs has a compulsory dissertation. So that is my LLM class from a couple of years ago. There's about 35 students. I think we had about 8 or 9 Thai students within that class. Most of them graduates of Thammasat or Chulalongkorn, but also we have graduates from Chiang Rai and Chiang Mai. And then below we have one of the assignments that they had to do. They had to each produce a poster on an IP topic, intellectual property topic of their choice. Teaching methods, basically we teach in a variety of methods. So we'll teach through lectures, we'll teach through seminars, small group teaching. We do problem-based sessions. So for example, the class will be given a particular scenario or a particular problem, for example, in my case involving intellectual property, and we'll go through the problem within class. And some modules will also give presentations. Now, one of the things we do know about is that international students as a whole find it sometimes difficult to talk in class. They're sometimes a little shy, or they're worried about their English. But we find that in time, we find that students gain the confidence, they gain the knowledge to feel more comfortable in joining in terms of discussing a problem-based session, for example, or discussing issues within a seminar. So at the beginning, perhaps, yes, you're nervous, you're a bit worried about your English, but we find that within time, you'll feel more relaxed and you'll feel more confident to give us your opinions, because we value your opinions, we value your thinking. Students come from many different backgrounds, from China, from Thailand, from North America, and therefore they bring their own views and their own experience to the classrooms. As most of assessment, nearly all our assessments are essays. There's only one module that has an exam component. The reason we choose essays is because it feels it's a better way to test international students. In exam, you're competing against native English speakers and you have an hour and a half to write everything down. In an essay, you have time. You have time to read, time to think, time to write your essay, time to rewrite parts of it. And we feel this is a much better way of assessing students to allow them to potential to get really good marks. And we find every year international students, Chinese, Thai students, get top marks, get distinctions, get very good marks. So we feel it's a better way of assessing students in that way. So this is a list of modules that we run every year. I think the thing I want to say about this list is it shows that our strengths think things like international trade and commercial law, our strength in corporate law and corporate governance, our strength in international law itself in terms of things like international investment law, international commercial dispute resolution, the strengths in areas such as human rights as well. We have international humanitarian rights, and growing strength in areas such as medical law and bio law, and now more recently in climate change law. So global environmental law, renewable energy, climate change law, which is becoming, and hopefully we're becoming more aware of, but it's becoming even more important for students to have a grasp of climate change, as this is affecting all of us. Now, this list of modules is added to every year. So in effect, what you would do is you would choose maybe 6 or 7 of these modules, and you'd study them in the first 2 parts of the year, and then you're assessed on them during that time. And virtually all of these modules, as I say, are assessed by 3,000-word essays. So after you've finished your taught part of the program, after you've finished doing your modules and your assessment, you then undertake a dissertation. And that dissertation can be on any topic you like. So if there's something in dispute resolution, if there's something in tax law, if there's something in environmental law that you found particularly interesting, then you do your dissertation in that area, and you're giving a supervisor who will take you through the process. And you write your dissertation over the summer months with help from your supervisor. Entry requirements from most Thai universities, we're looking for GPAs of 3.2, roughly 70% or above. This is quite a high GPA, but I think what that means is that you know if you have that GPA, that everyone else around you has that GPA or above as well. That means you're being taught around students of high quality, high standard like yourself. We have a language requirement, an IELTS of 7, with 7 in writing and no other component under 6.5. And again, you might say, well, IELTS score is very high, but it's for 2 reasons really. Law is all about language. Law is all about reading, about understanding, about interpreting, about analysis. And therefore you need a high standard of English language to be able to really engage fully on the master's program. In addition to that, virtually all our assessments are essays. And therefore, if you have a high language ability, you're going to be able to write a better essay. You're going to be able to read more and write a good essay that will get you the good marks. And therefore, having a high standard of IELTS and a high standard of English will ensure that you get good marks, or at least maximize your potential to get good marks on the LLM program. Now, some students come and do a second LLM. They maybe have done an LLM in Edinburgh or Queen Mary, somewhere else in the UK, and they'll come to us to do the second LLM because they wish to perhaps become a judge. Our IELTS requirement for the second LLM is only 6.5, and we may be able to waive that completely. So for example, if you've studied for a year at Edinburgh, or you've studied for a year at Queen Mary, generally speaking, we will waive your requirement for IELTS for the second LLM if you don't have the IELTS of 6.5 or 7. So there's a lot of flexibility. We will understand that if you studied in the year for, let's say, Edinburgh or Queen Mary, you've studied in the UK, your level of English and your ability to write essays will be high, and therefore we can waive that second LLM requirement. However, we do have pre-sessional programs. If you don't make that IELTS of 7 and you don't want to keep retaking it, we have pre-sessional programs. We have pre-sessional programs that last 5 weeks, 10 weeks, and we also have longer pre-sessional programs themselves. And these are run by the Language Centre within the university. If you do a pre-sessional course because you feel you rather do that than retake IELTS, you automatically go onto the LLM program. You do not have to retake IELTS. And our pre-sessional courses are tailored as well for studying in a UK educational institute, but they're also tailored towards students, law students. So we have pre-sessional classes that are just for master's students, just for LLM students. That means you meet other people on the course, you'll write practice essays in law, we supply the language centre with potential titles for that the students could do. We provide the language centre with materials for them, for the students who are on these pre-sessionals to read. So it's really good experience in when you start the LLM program itself, you've already understand how UK University, well, Durham University works, the educational environment. You've already written an essay on law. You already settled into Durham, met people on the program. It's a very good way of getting into the university and the LLM program and having what we say a flying start, already feeling settled when the LLM itself starts. How to apply? Well, unsurprisingly, it's all online. There is no formal deadline, but we tend to suggest students apply before the 31st of May or earlier because of visa issues. Generally, the earlier you can apply, if you can apply by March or April, it ensures that there's time to ensure that you get a visa. In addition, if you do a pre-sessional program, for example, and you decide not to retake IELTS and take a 5 or 10 week pre-sessional, you'll need to have your application in before then to make sure you can get onto a pre-sessional program. And generally, you just submit your transcript, your degree certificate, your language qualification, so on. If you apply, let's say you applied tomorrow, but you haven't finished your degree, you've got a language qualification, you would most likely get a conditional offer back. A conditional offer requiring you to have a GPA of 3.2 and an IELTS of 7. Once you meet those requirements, then that offer will be turned from conditional to unconditional offer. So you can apply before you've even taken, say, a language qualification. Tuition fees are, surprisingly enough, they go up every single year, though I never see any of the money. Postgraduate, this next year will be 20,000, 20,500. Accommodation, roughly speaking, it's between £6,000 and £10,000. If you go into private accommodation or university accommodation where you cook for yourself, it'll be about £6,000. So you'll have to add on fees for your food and entertainment. If you go into accommodation with a university accommodation where the university prepares meals for you, then it's probably more like £10,000. It depends on very much on how much you eat and how much entertainment you want and how much it will cost. Durham may be a very small city, but there's lots going on. We have to almost make our own entertainment. So there's lots going on within the city itself. The picture here is what is called the Durham Regatta, happens every year, and it's a rowing competition. And basically people from the university and universities across the UK come to Durham and enter into this rowing competition. It's a great thing to go and watch and enjoy the atmosphere, and sometimes it's even sunny, and just enjoy yourself. It's one of the many events that happens within the city itself and organised by the university itself. I want to talk a little bit about the colleges. If you decide to stay in college accommodation, the Durham colleges are different from other universities' halls of residence. Generally speaking, halls of residence tend to be a place where you just go and sleep and study. Durham colleges are special. They're places where students eat, sleep, and socialise. So all our colleges have gyms, they have sports facilities, they have dining halls, cafes, They have libraries, computer rooms, they have bars, and so on. So it's much more a place to meet people. It's much more a place to experience new things, make new friends. It's a place where you can meet people who are not doing the LLM program or from countries all over the world. It's somewhere that is much more like home. And each college has sports teams if you're into playing football or badminton. They also have societies, perhaps you're into acting or singing or playing a musical instrument. So there's a lot of activities going on within the college themselves. They are very much a place to help you settle into Durham, settle into the university, and to make friends and make the most of your year in the UK. So definitely somewhere to come call home. Even if you're not staying in a college, you stay in private accommodation, you are attached to a college. So in other words, you are a member of a college. So you can still go there for dinner or for lunch. You can still go there to the bars or the cafes or the computer rooms because you're a member of that college, even if you're not living in the college itself. So thank you for your attention. The email website address here, it will lead you to our postgraduate brochure. This will tell you much more detail about our 5 LLM programs. It will tell you much more about the law school and how to apply and details of the modules that we run and student life. And then the address at the bottom is the law school postgraduate pages, which will again tell you much more about the program if I've a question that has arisen that you want to seek and ask. So thank you very much for your attention. And if you have any questions, I'm more than happy to ask. Thank you. Answer, Nathan.
Thank you so much, Dr. Mike, for the very brief and just very informative session today. I think we have learned so much about the Durham itself as a city, and also what kind of lectures students can be expecting when they are at the university itself. I have a few questions here that student has dropped in the in the chat box, right?
Okay.
The first question is based on the tuition fee and also the living accommodations. So I can see that you did mention the tuition fee for all LLM program is about £20,500 per year.
Yes.
And
yes,
then,
that's correct.
And then I come back to reflect about it. Hey, that is actually a good value for money. First, you get to study in UK top 5 for the LLM. As you did mention, if you want to look at the program of study, you should look at the ranking in the LLM program itself. So you pay just 20,000 each, and to be in the top 5 program in the country.
Yeah, I think I mean, fees they're not cheap, but I think that's a very positive way of thinking about it. I think it's because Durham, as you say, is a top 100 QS ranking world university. It's a top 5 law school, top 4 law school. So you are studying at a very high quality law school for that money. So I suppose you are getting value for money. I think if you also have to think that if you're studying in London, then the fees in London are much higher. The accommodation is much higher. London is much more expensive. And similarly, I think if you're going to Edinburgh, their fees are higher. Their cost of living is a bit higher. So I think it's the fact that we're in the northeast of England and we're only a small city tends to mean that things like accommodation and cost of living are a little bit cheaper than other parts of the country. But I think as you say, the fees are good value.
ครับก็การที่ไปเรียนต่อในประเทศอังกฤษนะครับสำหรับน้องๆที่อาจจะเพิ่งเริ่มดูว่าประเทศอังกฤษเนี่ยหลักสูตรการเรียนการสอนของระบบชั้นปริญญาโทของเขาใช้เวลาในการเรียนเท่าไหร่นี่พี่แบงค์บอกก่อนเลยนะว่าประเทศอังกฤษครับเรียนปริญญาโทแค่1 ปีเท่านั้นเองนะครับแล้วก็ค่าเรียนของที่ Durham University นะครับอยู่ที่ 2,500 ปอนด์ต่อปีนะครับซึ่งถ้าเกิด 2,500 ปอนด์ต่อปีเนี่ยบอกได้เลยว่าค่าเรียนถ้าเป็นค่าเรียนอย่างเดียวนะอยู่ที่ประมาณ900,000 บาทนะครับนี่พี่แบงค์ใช้อัตราคิดโดยการใช้1 ปอนด์ต่อ40 บาท นะครับซึ่งค่าเรียนเนี่ยครับถือว่าไม่แพงเลยในการที่ไปเรียนในมหาวิทยาลัยที่อยู่ว่าท็อป 5 ของประเทศทางด้าน LLM ด้วยแล้วก็เป็นมหาวิทยาลัยที่กต.รับรองนะครับแน่นอนครับเรียนที่ดาร์แวมเนี่ยมีแต่คนรู้จักแน่นอนแล้วว่าอยากถ้าเกิดน้องๆสนใจไปเรียนในที่ที่คุ้นหูคุ้นตาหรือว่าพูดชื่อปุ๊บมีคนรู้เลยว่ามหาลัยนี้เป็นมหาลัยที่ ranking ดีนะครับก็บอกได้เลยครับว่าเป็นมหาลัย ranking สูงที่สูงมากๆนะครับแล้วก็ค่าเรียนไม่ได้แพงเท่าไหร่ส่วนค่ากินค่าอยู่นะครับขั้นต่ำครับอาจจะดูอยู่ที่ประมาณ 500,000 ถึง 600,000 ต่อปีนะครับคือค่ากินค่าอยู่เนี่ยต้องบอกก่อนเลยว่าการอยู่ประเทศอังกฤษมันเราไม่ได้อยู่ใช้ชีวิตง่ายๆเหมือนประเทศไทยเนอะการอยู่ประเทศอังกฤษจะต้องมีค่าหอพักค่ากินค่าน้ำค่าแก๊สค่ารถค่าเดินทางค่าอะไรทั้งหมดเหล่านี้ครับต้องรับผิดชอบชีวิตของตัวเราเองด้วยนะครับคิดว่าค่ากินค่าอยู่นะครับมองว่าอยู่ที่ประมาณ 5-6 แสนดีกว่านะครับบวกกับค่าเรียนด้วยประมาณ 800,000 ก็เป็นเสร็จออกมาแล้วนะครับก็อยู่ที่ประมาณ1,300,000 1,400,000 1,500,000อันนี้แล้วแต่ไลฟ์สไตล์ของตัวเราเองเลยคำถามต่อไปเดี๋ยวที่จะถามกับคุณไมค์นะครับก็จะถามเกี่ยวกับเรื่องวัฒนธรรมในตัวเมืองของเขาว่าเมืองดาร์แวมเนี่ยมันมีเสน่ห์ยังไงนะครับDr. Mike since you live in Durham for so long could you tell us a little bit about the culture there in the city how's their culture is like what students can expect
okay let me just go back this then here I think what you can see that it is a very small city so it's very quiet very green very easy to get around but because it's a small city we tend to have lots of things going on so we mentioned the rowing every year we have what's called a light festival every other year where they put lights in and around the city itself we wander around we have a hot air balloon hot air balloon festival as well during the summer months there's lots of museums going on we have the cathedral generally speaking because it's a small place there's so many things going on all the time within the city and then the colleges organize lots as well so there's lots of events in terms of sporting events there's people put plays on we have a Thai society so most nationals will have a society we have around about 100 members within the Thai society and they put events on as well sometimes for themselves sometimes open it up to others so I've been to a night where we had green curry and they did some Thai dancing which was just amazing so there's lots of things culturally wise to do and to keep you entertained and then within the law school we have both sort of formal events like the annual dinner we have virtually once or twice a week once a week we'll have someone giving a presentation within the law school on some there'll be a judge or from a law firm and then we have sort of social events within the law school as well so we have a sort of a party when everybody arrives we have one just before Christmas which is like a quiz night then we'll have one again next term and one in the summer term so even within the law school we'll have both sort of formal dinners and then fun time where we do quizzes and get together between the students and staff and so on so a variety of different things that go on a vast variety of different things that go on within the city itself both within the university and the colleges and then the law schools itself
yeah I was on mute yeah it's good to definitely see that Thai community is pretty active and you get to eat Thai green curries and perform some Thai sounds like you're very close to Thai students at the universities
sorry didn't quite catch that sorry
sorry yes.
Could you just
I was mentioning that it sounds to me as it is that you are very close to Thai students
well
they are second
well I think it's as you know I've been to Bangkok a few times to go to the OCSC educational fair and quite often I'll meet someone at that fair or on one of the agent events in the evenings and then they'll come to Durham. So we do have a good relationship within. I have a good relationship with Thai students that come to Durham as well, and I think quite a few of them are interested in intellectual property. As you know, intellectual property in Thailand is important, but sometimes you still go to the market and find copies of DVDs and so on, or you go to various places, and you have obviously you have the court system, so you have the intellectual property court system. So I think intellectual property is quite important in Thailand and becoming more important as well. So I think there's, as I say, we generally get a large number of Thai students will come and do the IP course that I run. So I do have a good relation, and as I say, I've had two Thai students before who've come to Durham to do their PhD. So I do.
Fantastic. ครับก็อย่างที่เราเห็นนะครับก็คืออาจารย์ไม้ครับเขาก็ค่อนข้างรู้จักแล้วก็เป็นที่สนิทกับนักเรียนไทยค่อนข้างเยอะมากๆนะเพราะว่าโดยตัวแกเองครับแกก็จะบินมาไทยปีละ1 ครั้งในพวกแบบ recruitment fair ตามงานของ education fair ต่างๆนะครับก็ถ้าเกิดใครอาจจะได้พบปะแกแล้วอะครับก็บอกเลยว่าแกเป็นคนที่น่ารักแล้วก็อยู่ที่ดารัมเนี่ยแกก็เป็นอาจารย์สอนที่คณะ LLM แล้วแกเนี่ยมีความเชี่ยวชาญอย่างมากทางด้าน intellectual property ด้วยนะครับก็ถ้าเกิดใครกลัวไปอังกฤษตอนนี้กลัวแบบไม่มีสังคมไม่มีเพื่อนหรือสังคมไทยน้อยบอกได้เลยครับว่าที่ดารัมโอเคเรามีอาจารย์ที่ค่อนข้างสนิทสนมกับนักเรียนไทยแล้วก็มีสังคมนักเรียนไทยที่ค่อนข้าง active นะครับเดี๋ยวพี่แบงค์จะถามคำถามต่อไปนะครับคำถามต่อไปเนี่ยที่พี่ยังจะถามก็เกี่ยวกับเรื่องการเรียนการสอนตอนนี้ว่ามีน้องคนนึงถามมาเกี่ยวกับเรื่องการเรียนออนไลน์ตอนนี้ว่าเป็นยังไงนะครับDr. Mike, we have currently one question about online learning.
Yes.
And blended learning. Yes. Could you give us a light in that how classes are being conducted in sessions at that?
Well, normally we have classes in the classroom. This year has been, for obvious reasons, has been very different. So we have had a mixture of ways of teaching our students. Quite a lot of the sessions are just online. So in other words, we use something like Zoom or MS Teams and give our lectures live, but remotely. So live, but online. And those lectures are also recorded so you can listen to them later. We have some blended teaching when we're dealing with small groups. So when we have groups of maybe 8 students or class sizes of 8 students, we do some face-to-face teaching. It's more, obviously, it's only for small groups of 8 or less where we do face-to-face teaching. And sometimes we do blended teaching. This will be when there's a fairly small group, maybe 20, but some of our students either haven't come to Durham or they don't want to come into the classroom, they want to stay safe. So we do a mixture then of teaching some students face-to-face and some students will be taught remotely. But they'll also be done live as well, and they'll also be recorded. So with the way I'm teaching my class is mostly remote, so they come online and we do everything online but live. But we have a few classes where we do blended teaching, a mixture, and a few classes where we do face-to-face.
Okay, that is thank you for the answer. So การเรียนการสอนของดารันตอนนี้นะครับก็เรียกว่าสอนด้วยรูปแบบที่เรียกว่า blended learning เพราะว่าเนื่องจากเหตุผลว่าปีนี้สถานการณ์มันไม่ปกติเลยเนาะแล้วก็มีเรื่องโควิดเข้ามาครับเพราะฉะนั้นทางมหาวิทยาลัยก็มีมาตรการในการรักษาความปลอดภัยเรื่องทางด้านสุขภาพนะครับให้กับนักเรียนแล้วก็อาจารย์คือการเรียนการสอนถ้าเกิดเป็นเรียกว่า class size ใหญ่การสอนก็จะเรียกว่า conduct by remotely นั่นหมายความว่าอาจจะใช้ Zoom หรือใช้ Team Meeting ในการสอนนะครับซึ่งการสอนตรงนี้มันถือว่ามันเป็น live class นะมันจะไม่เหมือน YouTube ที่ว่าเราเข้ามานั่งฟังในวิดีโอที่เขาอัดไว้แล้วมันจะไม่ใช่อย่างนั้นนะครับการเรียนการสอนถึงจะเป็นออนไลน์แต่ว่าเป็น live classroom นั่นหมายความว่าเราจะสามารถสอบถามคุยกับอาจารย์เราสามารถที่จะคุยกับเพื่อนๆทำงานกลุ่มได้ตามปกติเลยเพียงแต่ว่าแทนที่จะไปอยู่ในห้องเรียนที่เป็นห้องใหญ่กับเพื่อนๆประมาณ 30-40 คนเราอยู่ในห้องที่เป็นห้องส่วนตัวนะครับแล้วก็ อาจจะมีการทำซูมเข้าไปในการเรียนเหมือนที่วันนี้ที่น้องๆเข้ามาในเซสชันวันนี้นะครับผมส่วนห้องเรียนที่เป็นขนาดไซส์เล็กอาจจะมี8 คน5 คน8 คน10 คนอันนี้ถือว่าเป็นนักเรียนไซส์เล็กสามารถที่จะเข้ามาเรียนเป็นคลาสรูมเป็นปกติได้นะครับนั่นหมายความว่า blended learning เนี่ยมันเป็นการผสมผสานระหว่างการที่ห้องไซส์ใหญ่เข้าไปเรียนในห้องออนไลน์โดยการเป็น live classroom ปกติกับห้องไซส์เล็กสามารถที่จะเรียนได้ทั้ง face to face ถ้าเราอยากที่จะต้องการเข้ามาคุยกับอาจารย์ก็ face to face ได้หรืออาจารย์ก็กล่าวได้ว่าบางคนไม่สะดวกในการเข้ามาก็สามารถไลฟ์เข้ามาได้เหมือนกันนะครับหวังว่าอันนี้จะเป็นตอบคำถามของเราเนอะนะครับทีนี้ครับเดี๋ยวเราจะ move on ไปในเซสชันต่อไปMike we will move on to the next session if in case there's any student who have specific question who like that they would like to ask
Can I just say one last thing?
Of course.
Do you mind? Thank you. I just put this last slide on just to say a little bit about challenges to international students. And I think one of the things about coming to the UK and coming to Durham is getting used to the different educational systems involved in terms that what is expected from our students by Durham Law School in terms of what they produce. And I think we have 2 ways of trying to help. One is the pre-sessional program, if you do that. And secondly, we have a program called Research Methods, which is basically aimed at getting you to understand what you need to do under a UK educational system. The applied research methods will also give you some idea about UK law and EU law, because obviously the UK is a common law system, so it will help explain what the common law system is as compared to a civil law system. And then I think the other thing is language. There is lots of reading, so it is quite a challenge, but we find that by having a good IELTS or doing a pre-sessional, you get better and better at reading and you learn how to read quickly in English. And I think that's a big challenge, but I think it's something that our students do get round. And as the diagram there says, commas save lives, because they made 2 very, very different things. And then lastly, I'm going to say food first and weather. English, UK doesn't have a wonderful reputation for food. But what I will say is that even in Durham, we have a really good Thai restaurant. We have 2 other Thai restaurants that are good, but not quite as good. We have really good Chinese, Italian, we have Lebanese, we have Spanish, we have Greek. So even if you don't like the UK food so much, you can find anything you want to eat. And then the last thing is weather. Today it is 5 degrees, 6 degrees. I'm guessing in Bangkok it's 30. So you need to make sure that if you come to UK and you come to Durham, you have warm clothing, nice coat, gloves, scarf. But you'll enjoy yourself. It will snow sometime over the winter. And if you've never seen snow before, it's a wonderful experience. So you will have a good time. But these are some things just to bear in mind when you're thinking about coming to the UK or coming to Durham.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Mike. And especially when you brought up the facts about the pre-sessional preparation, I think that is one of the main concern where students always ask us if there's a preparation program, because it's not just that they need to blend into learning and they need to speak English at the law level, write English and interpret the essay at the law level, but also they need to blend into their life at Durham in the UK too. It's not going to be easy for anyone here to move to the UK and perform out in their first day at school. It's almost impossible, right? The distance between maybe you have to travel to the UK, you miss your loved one, you miss your family, you get homesick, you miss Thai food, you know. So a lot of that come into play factor how student actually performs at the university level. So if students can be taking classes in pre-sessional classes, like they could feel more confidence before going into the actual classroom when everything starts in September.
Yes.
October, I mean.
I completely agree. I think the international students, or especially Thai students who do a pre-sessional, by the time the masters, the LLM starts, they've made friends, they know their way around Durham, they know, how to catch the bus and how to go shopping and sort of day-to-day things, as well as settling in to their accommodation and getting used to the weather. And it's a very good way of feeling settled in and understanding both how Durham is, but also what's expected of you as a law student within Durham as well, before you start.
Making new social life is so important too.
Absolutely. So I know that all and the pre-sessional program as well is not just studying legal English or English. You also study legal English, but they also do trips away. So you go to Edinburgh for the day, or you go to Whitby, or you go to York or somewhere. So you have a day out with the other students, which again is a great way of meeting people, making friends, and seeing a bit more of the UK.
Definitely. ครับก็อาจารย์ไมค์เขาพูดอีกเรื่องนึงครับเกี่ยวกับเรื่องการเรียน pre-sessional เนี่ยซึ่งนักเรียนไทยหลายคนน่าจะมองว่าการเรียนอังกฤษเนี่ยไปที่ประเทศอังกฤษเนี่ยค่อนข้างยากเพราะว่าเหตุผลหนึ่งคือbarrier ทางด้านภาษาของเราใช่ไหมครับแน่นอนเราไม่ได้เกิดมารู้ภาษาอังกฤษไปเลยเนอะเราเกิดมาเราพูดภาษาไทยเขียนภาษาไทยอ่านภาษาไทยนะครับ เพราะฉะนั้นหลักสูตรของประเทศอังกฤษจะมีหลักสูตรที่เรียกว่า pre-sessional English อย่างดารัมครับในการที่เขารับคะแนนผล IELTS เข้าไปเนี่ยเขารับอยู่ที่คะแนนเท่าไหร่นะ 7.0 ใช่ไหมครับแล้วก็มีแบนด์สกอร์อีกเพราะว่าเลเวลในการเรียนภาษาการเรียนของ LLM หรือทางด้านกฎหมายครับมาตรฐานของเขาค่อนข้างสูงเพราะฉะนั้นเนี่ยน้องๆบางคนที่อาจจะได้IELTS อยู่ที่ 6.0 6.5 นะครับหรือ 7.0 นะแต่ว่ามีแบนด์สกอร์บางตัวที่ต่ำกว่าที่เขา require ไว้เนี่ยเราสามารถไปเรียน pre-sessional English ได้เหมือนกันซึ่ง pre-sessional English เนี่ยครับก็เนื้อหาก็จะสอนให้น้องๆเนี่ยเตรียมตัวก่อนที่จะเข้าห้องเรียนจริงแล้วก็เตรียมตัวทางทักษะทางด้านภาษาว่าจะเป็นการพูดอ่านเขียนนะครับแล้วน้องมีโอกาสในการสร้างสังคมเจอเพื่อนใหม่ๆปรับตัวเท่ากับสภาพแวดล้อมก่อนซึ่งโดยส่วนใหญ่แล้วครับนักเรียนไทยที่ไปเรียนจากโครงการ IDP เนี่ยก็จะเลือกเรียน pre-sessional อย่างน้อยประมาณ5 สัปดาห์นะครับซึ่งเป็นการปรับตัวได้ค่อนข้างดีนะต่อไปตอนแรกมันก็จะเหงาๆหน่อยใช่ไหมแต่ pre-sessional เนี่ยมันก็จะเหมือนไปเรียนที่แบบไปเรียนไปใช้ชีวิตมีไลฟ์สไตล์ให้เราอะครับเพราะฉะนั้นก็จะไม่เหงาแล้วเราก็จะมีเพื่อนๆค่อนข้างเยอะเหมือนกันนะครับต่อมาครับสุดท้ายแล้วเดี๋ยวทีนี้เราจะวิ่งเข้าสู่การทำinterview session one on one กับคุณแจสมินนะครับก็ถ้าน้องๆคนไหนมีคำถามที่แบบเป็นคำถามที่ค่อนข้างส่วนตัวหรือว่ามีคำถามที่เกี่ยวกับค่อนข้างเจาะจงในสิ่งที่ตัวเองอยากที่จะไปเรียนนะครับสามารถที่จะเดี๋ยวยกมือได้เลยนะหรือพิมพ์เข้ามาได้เลยเปิดไมค์ได้เลยว่าพี่ครับหรือว่าพี่คะหนูขอ interview session one on one นิดนึงนะครับเดี๋ยวเราก็จะมีการสร้าง breakout room ไปให้น้องแล้วก็น้องจะได้คุยทีเนี้ยเราก็จะมีเจ้าหน้าที่ IDP อะครับก็จะเข้าไปช่วยในการtranslate แปลภาษาหรืออะไรอย่างนี้ด้วยนะครับอันนี้มีคุณพาร์คนะครับใช่ไหมเอ่ยเห็น raise hand มานะครับคุณพาร์คสนใจที่จะเข้าไป interview session ใช่ไหมครับ
ใช่ครับ
โอเคครับคุณพาร์คเดี๋ยวเราจะสร้าง breakout room ให้นะครับทางแอดมินครับ
ได้ค่ะที่ส่งให้นะคะ
เดี๋ยวคุณพาร์คกับคุณจัสมินได้ครับขอบคุณมากครับคุณพาร์คครับนะครับน้องๆคนไหนที่มีคำถามหรือว่าอะไรเนี่ยสามารถส่งมาได้เรื่อยๆนะครับแล้วก็ใครที่อยากที่จะเข้าไปคุยกับทางคุณจัสมินเองสามารถที่จะ raise hand เหมือนเมื่อสักครู่เลยนะครับหรือว่าเปิดไมค์เข้ามาหรือพิมพ์เข้ามาได้เลยครับว่าพี่ครับผมต้องการที่จะคุยข้อมูลดีเทลลึกนิดนึงเรื่องค่าเรียนเรื่อง scholarship เรื่องชีวิตการเป็นอยู่เรื่องหลักสูตรนะครับพิมพ์เข้ามาได้เลยครับเดี๋ยวเราจะได้มีการจัดเซสชั่นให้นะครับผมไม่ต้องห่วงนะเพราะว่าเรามีเจ้าหน้าที่ IDP ในการช่วยบริการในการคุยหรือว่าแปลเอกสารหรือว่าพวกนี้ต่างๆให้แปลภาษานะครับโทษทีพูดผิดนะครับผมDr. Mike so I just carry on with Q&A session here for a while since we have like 1 or 2 students who look to make the interview so how has classes at Durham being I know it's very different from other Russell Group University. Okay, first your Russell Group you base heavily on research.
Yes.
And yes, you also have a TEFCO qualifications. So my question here is that how the other classes is being delivered at Dharma that qualify you for a TEFCO qualifications?
I think it's based on things like they assess the quality of teaching through a range of ways. So they look at the way we teach, they look at things like how we do assessments, they'll look at the information we provide the students in terms of their reading materials and their direction towards finding reading materials. They'll look at the way we train our students or give them certain skills. So for example, the applied research methods in module gives them skills in finding information, using databases, finding what they need to read to produce their particular assessment. So we give them skills such as that, as well as skills in terms of problem solving. So we'll do a session on problem solving, and we'll teach them how to sort of analyze and how to critique a particular problem or a particular piece of legislation or a case that's come through the courts. And we'll give them sort of the way that we teach is also sort of research-led teaching. So it's especially in things like IP, which is very contemporary, very up-to-date. We make sure that our teaching is talking about the latest things. So we're talking about, online copyright and streaming. We'll talk about artificial intelligence. So people are always looking at making sure that the topics that we teach are as new and contemporary as we can make them.
Interesting. And given that your research and expertise area is in intellectual properties, right?
Yeah, it is.
So it's something new every day for you, I think, because there are a lot of new going on inventions and if I'm not wrong, I look at your profile and it say you are doing a lot of biological technologies.
Mm-hmm.
How has the classes at your classes tackling on this current issue?
And biotechnology, we're looking at sort of the relationship between life sciences and intellectual property. So we look at things like what can be covered by a patent. So example, could it be an animal or parts of a human, plants? And we look at how different societies judge what should and shouldn't be patentable. So in the UK, we don't mind patenting most things, but other jurisdictions draw lines about whether we should allow patents over human parts or human genes and DNA. So we look at things like that. We look at access to medicines, which is access to the vaccine might be quite a new topic that's coming up soon. So we look at how can we promote access to medicines in general within both the developed world and the developing world. And the vaccine will be a great example about how we look at improving access to drugs and pharmaceuticals. And I think IP is also very contemporary in terms of copyright. Everyone listens to music or watch films. Where we used to download things, we now stream everything. And so there's a difference in the way that we interact as users with copyright and so on. And that's a very interesting area. And then I also look at issues about IP and renewable energy, and I look at IP and artificial intelligence. So it's looking about issues around what you can patent or get a copyright over when you're dealing with artificial intelligence and large amounts of data. So I think these are quite temporary. So
a lot of things that you cover has direct impact on our living, right?
Well, sometimes, yeah, I think so. Certainly with things like copyright, it's we all watch the films and listen to music. It's something everyone does all the time. So I think that's you're right, that's very direct. But I think even other things, we are sort of in perhaps less direct, but we still engage with every day. IP is everywhere.
It is definitely. And since we are living in the fast changing world, and innovation is it's happened almost every minute, I think.
It's very true. I think you're right. That the thing about intellectual property is there is something new coming up a lot of the time. So, and intellectual property is a big area as well. So it covers a wide range of things, not just films and music and technology, but even things like food, and we cover things called geographical indications, which are to do with food and food products mostly, which is becoming more and more important. I think it was one Tambon, one village, that your last king introduced an idea that you recognize what each village could contribute, something about its culture that it was famous for, and that's connected to geographical indications and how that works involves trade on an international level. So it's very much a very big area, very broad area, and but it does cover the way that we live our lives, but also the way societies operate and the way we trade globally. So it covers lots of different levels.
Excellent ครับเมื่อกี้สักครู่ผมก็ถามดร.ไมค์ไปกับเรื่องสิ่งวิชาที่แกสอนเนื่องจากดร.ไมค์เนี่ยท่านสอนกับเรื่อง intellectual property หรือว่าสิทธิทางปัญญาใช่ไหมครับเพราะฉะนั้นเนี่ยก็เลยสอบถามแกว่าเรื่องสิทธิทางปัญญาเนี่ยมันสำคัญยังไงกับด้านกฎหมายแกก็อธิบายว่าสิทธิการทางปัญญาสำคัญมากนะเพราะในโลกยุคปัจจุบันนะครับไม่ว่าจะเป็นเรื่องอาหารเรื่องการกินเรื่องการใช้ชีวิตการเป็นอยู่ทุกอย่างของเราครับมันถูกคิดค้นโดยคนใดคนหนึ่งนะครับเพราะฉะนั้นการที่เรามีกฎหมายตรงนี้ขึ้นมารับรองเนี่ยก็ทำให้เหมือนว่าเป็นการปกป้องสิทธิ์ของผู้ที่คิดค้นสิ่งใหม่ๆเหล่านั้นนะครับแล้วก็ดร.ไมค์ก็ยังบอกว่ามันหลายๆอย่างเนี่ยก็คือจะเกี่ยวข้องกับเรื่อง corporate นะครับก็เรื่องเกี่ยวกับกฎหมายระหว่างบริษัทกฎหมายระหว่างต่างประเทศกฎหมายระหว่างการค้านะครับซึ่ง IP Law ก็เป็นส่วนหนึ่งที่สำคัญค่อนข้างมากเลยก็เป็นวิชาหนึ่งที่นักเรียนค่อนข้างให้ความสนใจในการมาเรียนที่ดาแรมนะครับแล้วก็เดี๋ยว ยังไงครับถ้าเกิดมีน้องคนไหนสนใจที่จะวันอินเทอร์วิวก็สอบถามหรือว่าทักเข้ามาได้เลยนะครับเดี๋ยวพี่แบงค์จะได้จัดการให้ข้อมูลเพิ่มเติมได้นะครับผมso Dr. Mike a few more questions here. How about the industrial connection opportunities for Thai students?
They are more limited than opportunities. I think if you are thinking about doing maybe an internship with a law firm, you need to think about that very early, almost as soon as you arrive. Because we have very strong contacts with major law firms across the UK and international law firms. So people like Baker and McKenzie, for example, Hogan Lovells, we have very strong contacts with them, and they often send people from those law firms to Durham to talk to our students. So if you're thinking about doing an internship, you need to think about it very early in terms of applying, because sometimes they are very competitive, sometimes they don't have any, sometimes they're looking for someone who has specific qualities, maybe they've done something in international trade, maybe it's a language quality. So I think they do exist, but they are competitive, and I would say each year maybe 2 or 3 students will get an internship off our LLM program. So not many, but opportunities are there, and they'll be usually in London with one of the big law firms. But we're improving our relationship with the big London law firms and international law firms every year, and although it probably won't happen next year, the year after we'll probably have a placement scheme involved as well. So we'll have 2 students who can be placed into a major law firm in London.
That does sound like amazing opportunities.
It's not easy, but it's
not easy, possible. But it is there for students to try their best.
Yes.
Yeah, I think the challenge is there everywhere you go, but it's the factor about how you look back at yourself and how you try to produce your best effort.
Absolutely, and we do other things that not so much about placement. So we do things like we have court visits. So we go and visit. Durham has a court, and so we have the judge from that court comes and gives a presentation. We visit the court, and so there's other things that are outside the law school itself to give you a bigger experience of the sort of legal system within the UK as well, that students can do as well. They're not mandatory, they're optional, but the law school has lots of things we can provide students, activities outside of the law school that are still law related.
ก็การเรียน RLM ที่ Durham นะครับน้องๆก็ยังมีโอกาสที่จะทำกิจกรรมต่างๆนอกเหนือจากในห้องเรียนแล้วก็กิจกรรมแบบนี้เป็นกิจกรรมที่เกี่ยวข้องกับทางด้านกฎหมายโดยตรงนะครับไม่ว่าจะเป็นกับทางพาร์ทเนอร์ที่มหาวิทยาลัยมีเองหรือว่ากับทางในการที่มีสปีกเกอร์จากองค์กรเก่งๆนะครับเข้ามาพูดเพื่อจะเป็น case study หรือว่าเป็นการแชร์ประสบการณ์ให้กับน้องๆฟังนะครับแน่นอนครับว่าการไปเรียนต่อที่ประเทศอังกฤษเนี่ยแน่นอนว่าเราก็ต้องพึ่งลำแข้งตัวเองเนอะเพราะฉะนั้นเราก็จะต้องแบบพยายามหาโอกาสต่างๆเหล่านี้ครับในการเข้าถึงในการที่จะตั้งใจเรียนเข้าหาอาจารย์หรือว่าคุยกับพาร์ทเนอร์ต่างๆในการที่แบบหาความจุดมุ่งหมายของตัวเองว่าพอเรียนจบไปแล้วเนี่ยฉันอยากที่จะทำอะไรต่อทางด้านนี้นะครับวันนี้ก็น่าจะได้ข้อมูลกันไปครบถ้วนนะครับแล้วก็ถ้าเกิดขาดตกบกพร่องผิดพลาดประการใดยังไงทาง IDP ต้องขอประทานโทษด้วยอย่างน้อยครับอย่างนี้วันนี้ IDP รู้สึกดีใจมากที่น้องๆหลายๆคนเข้ามาในเซสชันวันนี้กับเราแล้วก็เราต้องขอบคุณทั้งอาจารย์ไมค์แล้วก็คุณแจสมินนะครับที่เข้ามาในเซสชันวันนี้ในการให้ความรู้ในการตัดสินใจให้กับพวกเราทุกคนนะครับยังไงวันนี้เราเจอกันในโอกาสครั้งหน้านะครับขอบพระคุณครับDr. Mike and Jasmine, our session today has ended, and we would like to say thank you so much for spending your time with us and share with us the insight of the law school. And definitely we will continue our relationship with you. And if there's any student here who would like to make appointment with Jasmine or with us to assist with application process, how to best prepare the application documents, IDP is the agent that can assist you with. So thank you so much, and I hope you all have a great day ahead. Thank you.
Thank you for inviting us, and thank you for the students for coming along and listening to us. And maybe we'll see you in Durham next year.